So I think we should get started. Thanks everyone for coming. Just to set some ground rules, everyone with the exception of the participants will be muted. We're going to have a Q&A after the fellows present. So what you can do, the chat function is enabled. So you can go to the chat function and you can just type in your question and send it to Emily Blank, who will be moderating our Q&A after the fellows present, who's waving her hand. And with that, I'll pass it to Eva Alligood to start us off.
Thank you, Leah. I'm so excited to welcome everyone this year in a slightly different format than we're used to, but we're glad to all be together. I'm Eva Alligood. I'm the Deputy Director of LISC New York City, and welcome everyone. I'm very excited that we are now celebrating the class of 2020 of Cashin Fellows, and we're going to be hearing their final presentation in a virtual format this year. Just to give you some background, most of you know about this program who are tuned in today, but it's always worth letting people know how this program is structured. It's such a wonderful opportunity. It started 13 years ago here at LISC New York City, and with generous support from our LISC board member and former LISC staffer, Lisa Cashin, who we're always so grateful for, not only for her support of this program, but her deep engagement, and she is on the webinar with us, so you'll be hearing from her. So thank you, Lisa. And also, we're really grateful for the partnership that we have with Prep for Prep. They are just amazing partners and also make this program possible. And just by way of background, we have the new Chief Executive Officer, Ruth Jurgensen, with us here today. You'll be hearing from her, but I will just give a little thumbnail in preview of her description that Prep for Prep is a New York City leadership program that prepares students of color for success at independent schools throughout the Northeast. And Prep for Prep helps us place high school and college age students at New York City community-based organizations, as well as at LISC, to gain exposure to the field of community development. And since 2007, students have gained invaluable experience working as interns at some of LISC's leading community-based partners, and have had exposure to cutting-edge work in affordable housing, health equity, college access, and other vital services that are provided by our community-based partners in low-income neighborhoods. And again, in a few minutes, you'll hear from Ruth Jurgensen herself. But I'd like to not only thank her for her leadership and partnership through this program, but also the amazing staff who work with us so closely on this program and place the most amazing students in community development. So I thank all of you for that partnership. And now I'm just going to spend a minute telling everybody who's tuned in a little bit more about how the program is structured and why it's such an amazing experience for our students. So what we do is at the beginning of the summer, we place students for an average of about 8, sometimes 9 weeks at these organizations I just described during the summer months. And we found that their impact is enormous. I want to emphasize that it's not only an amazing learning experience and professional development experience for the students, but I want to also say that our community-based partners and the LISC departments, including LISC New York City, who benefit from them, also gain so much from their talent, their perspectives, and their voice, which you're going to hear about shortly when we stop doing the introductions. So they're always in high demand because they really do a lot in the community. They're great at outreach and all the things you'll be hearing about. And you're going to hear their presentations momentarily. So this year we've had, which is the 13th year, we've had 12 students placed at 5 community-based organizations, LISC New York City, and some LISC national departments. And it should, I should note that obviously we're in a virtual format, which is how this internship has been structured. In previous years, of course, students have had the chance to be out placed directly in those organizations physically, And we're really grateful for our partners to have found a way to make sure we could continue this experience virtually, just like the rest of us working in this field have had to adapt to a virtual format. So has this program, and we're really thrilled that it has worked out beautifully. So as a quick overview, about how things run throughout the summer, we give an orientation at the beginning so people, the young folks who are placed as fellows really get a good understanding of what community development is and the history and how the work is structured. And then they're matched with a LISC mentor, which is a really key piece of the program as well. So not only do they benefit from the supervision and guidance they get at their sites, but they also have a mentor at LISC who is experienced in community development and can guide them. We offer a midsummer workshop, which is focused on helping the fellows to hone their skills in communicating about their fellowship experience and building career paths. So really learning how to express, to talk about the experience they had and how that connects with their professional goals. We always hold a neighborhood tour, and while we had a neighborhood tour this year, obviously it was a little different. It was virtual, but we were thrilled because this year we had the theme of rooted responders, which is what we call our community-based organizations who are responding to COVID and the economic crisis that we're in. And we had them engage not only the executive directors on this topic, but also had our community, our Cashin fellows who are placed at those organizations talk about COVID-related response and racial justice from the perspective of community development and what are these organizations doing and what should they do in the future. So it was a really robust discussion, which did not suffer from being in a virtual format as far as I was concerned. So thank you to Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation, Impact Brooklyn, Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, and all the fellows who participated. It was a really amazing conversation. And finally, at the end of the summer, we have a final presentation event, which is taking place today. So as you can see, our Cashin fellows really get a rounded out experience of exposure to community development. And, we always say that even though not all of our fellows are going to go on into the field of community development, and that's not necessarily the goal of this program, we do think it's really valuable that they get this experience and bring that perspective to whatever career they want to pursue. And we have been tracking over the years all the various things that our Cashin fellows do, and we know they benefit from this work in community development. So we have amazing talent with us this year, as every year, and I'm so thrilled and excited for you to meet them. But before we do that, I'd like to give a special shout out to the two LISC New York City staff who managed this program and did it amazingly this year, which is Emily Blank and Leah Martins-Krasner. Thank you so much for all that you do in this program. And thank you to everybody who's been a participant. And with that, I'm really thrilled to turn things over for some remarks from Ruth Jurgensen, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Prep for Prep. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I'm thrilled to be here to celebrate the work of this year's LISC Cashin Fellows. And I know we're all looking forward to your sharing of experiences working in community development. As recent times have demonstrated, it is now more important than ever to ensure that all of us, regardless of circumstances, have equitable access to opportunities that allow for one's well-being. And LISC New York City is a champion in this area, again, focusing on, as you know, affordable housing, economic development, and healthy neighborhoods. Thank you for existing for people. There's no greater mission than that. And thank you, Lisa Cashin, for your significant commitment and contribution to Prep for Prep and also LISC. Lisa developed Cashin Fellows Program in 2007, as you heard, which currently places 12 prep interns each summer, and over 175 prep students have interned with LISC since the 1990s. And thanks to these opportunities, prep students have come to understand how community development organizations interact with other industries, which is really essential. They can see themselves participating and supporting community development for a long time to come in a variety of ways, long after the internship. And this trajectory benefits us all, benefits society. So again, thank you for inviting me to be here and listen, and I'm really excited to see the presentation.
Absolutely. Ruth and Eva for helping us out. Before the presentation, if we were in person, I would ask every fellow to stand up and introduce them, but I guess we'll have to do that virtually. So as you all heard, we have 12 fellows placed at 12 different sites, and I'll just share who they are and where they're placed. So if you have your camera on, you can wave as I say your name. We have Aurora Austin placed at Impact Brooklyn, Ashley Batista placed at Cypress Hills, Craig Celestine placed at Bedside Restoration Corporation, Joseph Delgado placed at Banana Kelly, Michael Ding at the LISC National and our Field Excellence Team, Isaiah Hyman in LISC New York City, Janae Robinson also with LISC New York City, Diana Sanacella with New Settlement Apartments, Diana Sanchez with Fifth Avenue Committee, Megan Shariah, who is splitting her time with LISC Charlotte and LISC Hampton Roads. These are part of our local offices for anyone who's not super familiar with the LISC structure, and Tiger Tang with LISC Knowledge Management Team, and Talisha Ward, who's also at Bed-Stuy Restoration Corporation. As Eva shared, all the fellows have worked on a variety of projects around affordable housing development, health equity, communications, economic development, all which have really been impacted by COVID-19 in many ways. And they've all really, really stepped up, and it's been such a pleasure working with them and learning from them. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that before we dive in, but I'll stop talking and I'll let the fellows take it from here. So take it away, Sanaya and Tiger.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 Cashin Summit. Today, we will be talking to 3 panels of Cashin Fellows discussing 3 different topics of work that we have been doing during the Cashin Fellowship Program. This summer, COVID-19 and recent protests for racial justice has shaped the community development field, as well as the work we have done this summer. We are in a very important period of time of change and development in this country, and the Cashin Fellows work this summer shows that. So my name is Sanaya Robinson. As Leo said earlier, I am a 3-year senior, rising senior at Phillips Exeter Academy. I am a Cashin Fellow who's placed at LISC New York City's office, and I've been helping them in the communications team, and I'll be one of the co-moderators for today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tiger Tang. I'm a rising senior at Bowdoin College, and I'm currently placed under Knowledge Management at LISC, and I will be your other co-moderator for today. Knowledge Management, for anybody that's unfamiliar, deals with the sheer mass of data and knowledge and orders it into manageable pieces to disseminate to other, branches. I will be, today we'll be talking about, the work that we've done today. The Cashin Fellow program is a great opportunity for high school students and college students to learn about community development. And so thank you very much for being here. And we're so excited to have the opportunity to tell you what we learned this summer.
Thank you, Tiger. And as I mentioned earlier, COVID-19 has shaped community development, but has also revealed a lot of the community needs that the communities that we're serving through this Cashin Fellowship. So the first panel today will be discussing the community needs that they saw through their work in their community organizations. So the first question that I have for panel 1 is, during your work with CDCs, what immediate needs did you guys observe?
Yeah, so I'll be starting us off with that. Hi, I'm Diana Sanacella again, and I will be a first year at Bowdoin College in the fall, and this summer I was placed at New Settlement Apartments. And so in my internship, I worked most specifically with their community food action area and also their farm stand. And what I think I observed that there was the most immediate need for among the community was access to food. And by access to food, they do not mean just any food, but food that is also healthy and relatively local. This need was really highlighted by the current pandemic, where people's health is obviously a very immediate concern. And a way to do so was by providing fresh and good food that can really help people look after their health. Good nutrition is always important, but especially during this pandemic, it's even more crucial because a well-balanced diet of nutritious foods can really go a long way in terms of supporting strong immune systems. Many people among lower income communities are also already being really heavily impacted by the virus, and one of the many factors that can be affecting them is a lack of access to food that can help sustain their bodies to help keep them strong. Also, a big factor of accessibility to this food is not only having it immediately available or present in the community, but also having it be affordable. Although I didn't have the chance to have conversations or contact with residents of the community like other fellows in previous years, Youth Settlement Apartments is aware that given the pandemic and how it has affected people's employment status, making food affordable is more important. They also recognize that the pandemic has had an economic impact on lower income communities like the Mount Aiken community in the Bronx, where Youth Settlement Apartments itself is located. And since their mission is really to serve the community, they're doing so by continuing to support residents by doing things like keeping their farm stand running, which for many residents is one of the few places they can get fresh food. And they're also doing things like providing emergency funding or food because they also recognize that lack of proper nutrition or food insecurity should not be another cause for illness during an already vulnerable time for people health-wise.
Hi, my name is Felicia Ward, and I will be a sophomore at Kenyon College this fall. And this summer, I was placed at Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation in their Center for Healthy Neighborhoods. I interned as a food navigator, and my primary task was putting clients in contact with local healthy and affordable food options. That being said, a lot of the immediate needs that Diana talked about I also observed. But when I would do other tasks, such as updating a spreadsheet with new information from clients who attended the weekly farm share, I saw that there were also needs in financial counseling, childcare, and help finding a job. Something that I also noticed when talking with clients is that there is a large elderly demographic that Restoration serves. That demographic has other concerns that we observed. For example, before letting them know of possible food resources, we asked if they are able to leave their home or if they're homebound, which helps to inform the food options that we would recommend. Like if they can leave their house, we would tell them about local food pantries.
Hi everyone, my name is Diana Sanchez, and this fall I will be a rising sophomore at St. Olaf College. And this summer I was working with this Avenue Committee, and the primary focus of the Avenue Committee is trying to make affordable housing possible and helping communities that are the most vulnerable when it comes to housing, such as low-income communities and elderly communities. And those needs have just been made greater during the pandemic because people have faced challenges with finding jobs or keeping jobs because a lot of jobs are not made possible because of social distancing and quarantine. And so the new needs that I observed this summer were just that affordable housing is already such a huge issue in New York City, but it was just made greater by the pandemic. So I worked with the Avenue Committee to learn more about the issues that the vulnerable communities are facing and just working by contextualizing the data and me trying to meet people's needs to help them obtain housing during this challenging and intense.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Michael Ding, and I'm a rising senior at Trinity School. So I work with the Field Excellence team this summer, which facilitates the work of LISC offices across the country, as well as the Greater Newark office. So the immediate needs that I observed were directly related to the major events of this year and the long-standing and deep societal inequities that they shed further light on. So to some extent, the coronavirus pandemic has devastated every community in our country and almost every country in the world. It's closed schools, shuttered small businesses, separated families, and greatly restricted the livelihoods of people of all ages and backgrounds. With that being said, the pandemic has disproportionately impacted communities of color. So just to provide some statistics, according to the Brookings Institution, Black and Latinx people have by far the highest mortality rates per 100,000 people. In addition, according to the New York Times, Black and Latinx small business owners had the highest proportion of closed businesses by April. Coupled with racial justice protests, this year has truly exposed the issues and needs of our local community.
In today's society, that COVID has had, a huge impact on people of color. So I was just wondering, what contributions in your work did you feel were the most impactful?
Yeah, hi again. This is Diana Sanicella from New Settlement Apartments. And I think the contribution that was most impactful was the work that New Settlement Apartments did to create and implement a SNAP-specific outreach plan to promote the use of SNAP and pandemic EBTs. And similarly to what some of my peers have mentioned, either in previous meetings or now, an important part of New Settlement Apartments' work was really organizing relevant information and resources, and for us, it was specifically about food accessibility to provide community members with. And this was done throughout the summer by planning and creating informational materials regarding those two food assistance programs and the farm stand. And part of my role in this as a fellow was having the opportunity to write a piece for the farm stand's newsletter regarding food assistance programs to SNAP, its origins, and how it has been affected by the pandemic. Given COVID, the methods for outreach have also seen a significant shift. Before, there would be a lot more face-to-face interaction between staff and community members to make them aware of SNAP benefits and resources offered through community food action. But now the main method for outreach is social media, given social distancing. And I'm being given the opportunity to use community food action social media accounts as a tool to provide followers with more relevant information regarding pandemic EBT. And this information includes like what is pandemic EBT, eligibility requirements, and how to access and apply for these funds. And the social media outreach is also impactful because it's providing people of the community information that really impacts their daily lives and health. And Community Food Action is also using social media to further promote the use of health bucks, which is basically a way to help incentivize people who do not think they can afford to shop for food at farmers markets, such as the one run by New Settlement Apartments. And basically, with a health buck, if someone purchases $5 worth of food, they then return $2 of those dollars into their EBT card. And even if the farm stand isn't someone's main source from which they purchase food, even having some form of fresh food in their or their family's diet is still beneficial to their health, which is obviously important during a health-related crisis.
Hi again, I'm Talisha. I found the weekly farm share to be the most impactful. Before the pandemic, the Center for Healthy Neighborhoods promoted healthy eating and lifestyles through different initiatives as they weren't heavy client-facing and more policy-focused. They addressed the issues of food accessibility and equity by partnering with different local programs that deal with childcare, healthcare, and senior care, and trying to help them switch to local food providers. During this pandemic, the Center for Healthy Neighborhoods expanded their initiatives to make sure that Brooklyn residents were still offered the opportunity of accessing local and healthy foods. The weekly farm share allowed the center to give out free, fresh, and locally sourced produce, and after signing up for their food share, if a client wants more ways to access food, Restoration would be able to inform them of nearby pantries and even sign them up for meals through Get Food New York City. And if needed, clients could be referred to other services offered by Restoration. So for me, the farm share was really impactful because of what it provided, and it also acted as a key to opening up clients with a future relationship with all of Restoration.
Hi, everyone. This is Diana Sanchez again from Fifth Avenue Committee. And this summer, Fifth Avenue Committee, like during everything going on with the pandemic, Fifth Avenue Committee was still able to receive and review applications and get people into affordable housing, which helped make a difference in their lives at this point and make their lives easier. So how we went about this was that I would receive data and I would learn how to analyze it and also organize it using programs like Excel and Word. So I started out by just observing just the needs of people, such as elderly people, like seeing if they had any disabilities that they needed help with and taking that into account when providing them with the housing that was available. And then I was able to review and edit letters with my supervisor that we would send to housing agencies and as well as to the city. And I learned how the process works to kind of mark off units of affordable housing and apartments that had to stay at an affordable price in buildings primarily in Manhattan and in Brooklyn. And then we would send those, we would send to the city and to housing agencies in order to make sure that we were getting the loan for it, like the money for it, as well as making sure that those squared off apartments stayed Also had the same amenities as the other luxury apartments in the building, and making sure just that every apartment was staying affordable. And I have to keep in mind that even though I was not interacting with people directly as I would have if I could have gone into the office, I also kept in mind that this was like real information and that we were actually helping people in real time, and that impacted their lives in a lot of ways in this summer.
Hi again, this is Michael from LISC Field Excellence. So my work this summer was directly related to the immediate needs that I observed, those being COVID-19 and racial safety and justice. So with the LISC Field Excellence team, I helped develop the application process for the $395,000 Innovation Fund, which aims to facilitate projects run by LISC local offices that specifically tackle COVID recovery, safety and justice, and the racial wealth gap. While I have not had the opportunity to review any of the applications yet, I was honored to have taken a large role in developing the application itself and the scoring mechanism, and I felt that I was indirectly making a contribution to addressing these large issues in our society today. In addition, with the Greater New York office, I helped develop a curriculum guide for the New York Resident Leadership Academy, which engages residents in various leadership seminars to ultimately complete a project with their neighborhood teams. The guide helps synthesize information about the New York office and the Leadership Academy, and hopefully will help market the Academy to neighborhood residents for years to come. I hope that in doing so, my work in creating the guide will lead to more neighborhood projects and drive significant positive change in local communities, such as innovative and sustainable methods for improving COVID recovery, access to education, or safety and justice.
Thank you, Panel 1, for your work. It's very clear a lot of the effects of COVID are being, out there right now. And there's been a big shift from, in person to online, obviously. A lot of the work that I actually do under knowledge management revolves around updating the LISC website so that the right resources, webinars, and seminars are all available online. LISC has a lot of resources, so staying on top of them is part of my job description. Especially now, due to the recent protests all over America, it's one of the best times to get educated about these racial issues today.
I think you touched on something important, Tiger, about the connection between racial issues and community development. So speaking on my experience, working at LISC New York City this summer, I worked on creating a report about MWBEs in the beauty industry. And one of the many things I noticed was the racial and wealth disparities amongst minority and women-owned businesses. When it came to getting resources from due to COVID-19, these businesses had less access than many others. Identifying the racial and wealth inequalities that exist in these communities that community development organizations serve is extremely important. And because of that, Panel 2 will be talking about the research they found during the summer about racial and wealth disparities in New York City communities. So the first question that I have for you guys is, how does racial disparity and wealth disparity come up in our work? And what example can you guys provide?
Yeah, so I can start. As it's been mentioned before, my name is Megan Shariah, and I am a current or upcoming sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania. And I have been splitting my time between the Hampton Roads LISC office in Virginia and the North Carolina Charlotte office. And I think that in order to really structure the examples that I've come up with, there are 3 projects I've been working on that overarch with 2 themes in particular. And so the first theme is social determinants of health. And Sanai, like you mentioned, the question of access and what opportunities you are able to have in hand really go and really play a part in social determinants of health and who lives there with you, like who is in your environment and what attributes that has for you. And so for Hampton Roads, I've been working on coming up with a recommendation for services that are attached to affordable housing so that people don't only worry about where they live, but also the resources they have access to and what that looks like for improving their quality of life. In addition, for Charlotte, I have been working on 2 separate projects that kind of tie into the idea that race and socioeconomic status are very inextricably linked in this country and have been for a really long time.
And so in terms of a long-term idea, I've been working on racial equity research within the office and the opportunities that are accessible to minority homeowners, entrepreneurs, and developers in the area, especially considering that Charlotte is up and coming as a city with a lot of contracting opportunities available to people who are in that field. And in terms of a more pressing matter that has been shown with the Black Lives Matter movement, the idea of police brutality and the treatment of minority people, especially considering the idea of social determinants of health and the neighborhoods that Black people have tended to be placed in, what a safety initiative looks like in terms of community policing and how we should be treating these people.
Yeah, so as Megan was talking about homeowners and problems and disparities with homeowners, but hi, my name is Joseph and I'm a sophomore at Boston College. And this summer I've been working at Banana Kelly Community Improvement Association. And a problem I've been seeing while attending tenant association meetings is problems with rent, which is very intertwined with homeowners problems. And one of the main issues is landlords and them abusing their power against the tenants that don't really know how rent law works. It's very confusing and it's hard to understand, even for English speakers, but it's a very big problem with people whose primary language is Spanish because they already are at a disadvantage of not knowing the language and not knowing how rent law works. So Banana Kelly has been working to fix that problem by hosting bilingual seminars and people explaining exactly how rent law works to prevent these landowners these landlords from abusing their power. They've been looking for community support so that they can hire lawyers to see if there could be any legal action taken. So that's some disparity I've seen in the work I've been doing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isaiah Hyman. I'm a rising junior at Bowdoin College, and over the summer, I worked at LISC New York City with the lending team. So most of my work has been focused on researching small businesses and lending agencies in and around New York City to help expand LISC's small business lending. And I've looked over products from large banks to like local and more mission-aligned groups, and one thing that I've noticed that isn't necessarily central to the ongoing dialogue, but still like very important is disparity in financial literacy, especially among Black and brown businesses. So in my work, I've noticed that mission-aligned groups that focus on funding minority or women-owned businesses are also especially focused on increasing financial literacy in those groups. And I found that those businesses tend to struggle just because they don't have proper like money management skills, financial planning, saving and investing skills. And that's largely just due to like how their business works. It's usually a small operation and it's usually cash operated, but that can prove to be very harmful, especially when they're looking to expand or apply for loans and they don't have the necessary documents, get a loan underwritten. And I think that's like especially important, like just in the times that we are in now with COVID, where everything's kind of on hold and people aren't, selling as much as they used to. They're not really like engaging with clients as much as they used to. So that financial planning is especially important. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Isaiah. It's very clear that, especially now during a time when pandemic strikes, financial literacy really is a key aspect of maintaining, one's home. So, Joseph, how has COVID shown disparities like financial literacy in the homes of minorities, especially?
Hi, I'm Joseph. I've worked at Banana Kelly Community Improvement Association, and one of the big issues is paying for rent, especially with the COVID virus. Before, Hispanic and Black households were already struggling to meet every month's rent, but this especially increased in 2020 with the coronavirus, as shown by the U.S. Census Bureau, who conducted a survey. And
Hispanic and Black homeowners and renters are especially being hit hard, and they don't know if they can be able to pay next month's rent compared to other people. In addition to this, another disparity or another problem caused by COVID is the current New York City education system's reopening plan. The current reopening plan involves cycling, like making groups of students and then cycling them. So a group will go for 2 days, then they clean up, and then another group will come in. But this is a big problem because schools with a large number of students that are overpopulated, which are majority schools that have a majority Hispanic and Black population, they won't get access to education or one-on-one education as much as other schools. In addition to this, children with special education or special needs need education, one-on-one education every day, or else their skills will regress. Another problem are buses. They haven't figured out how the bus system will work under Corona. And this is especially troubling because a lot of those Hispanic or Black or POC kids rely on the buses to get to and from school. And if this doesn't work out, then they might have to use the public transit system, which is a problem in and of itself because they will be at greater risk compared to other more affluent income households.
Thank you, Joseph. Connecting to that revealing information about disparities in the minority communities, I am wondering, Isaiah, what is the most interesting research or statistics you found during the summer?
Yeah, thanks, Sinai. So in addition to my work with small businesses, I was also looking at health disparities according to race. And so according to Google, like our state, New York State is responsible for around 25% of the total like COVID-related deaths in the United States. And then when you break that down further, 70% of those deaths are in and around New York City. And then as it's shown on the graph, you know, Hispanic and Black citizens are affected twice as much as white and Asian citizens. So that isn't really like an inherent trait in those communities, but it's a problem due to systemic racism that often denies those groups, necessary, resources to have a healthy life. And like panel one was saying, they're often, denied whole foods, and the foods in the areas that they're largely in aren't the best. They're heavily processed and tend to have links to historically like Hispanic and Black diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. So that, like, in addition to COVID, that already weakens the immune system, right? And then on top of that, you also have inequitable treatment in hospitals where, healthcare providers might refuse to treat a patient as much as they should just solely based on their race, or they might even think that this person doesn't need like a necessary amount of treatment just because of their race. Like they might be more resilient or just based on their race. So that's just another problem that we're seeing that we need to correct, and that COVID's been highlighting so far.
Thanks, Isaiah. And yeah, it's clear that, something needs to be done. So, Megan, if there was a law that was proposed to Congress, what would be the important factors that you would make sure be added to such a law?
Yeah, so I think that Isaiah and Joseph brought up some great examples of the way that systemic racism has been playing in 2020 and what that looks like for a lot of people. I know Sinai also mentioned it as well, and I would like to highlight the Payment Protection Program and the ways in which the idea that having these bailout funds go to these banks and leaving banks in charge with distributing that aid, given the fact that a lot of minority businesses don't have pre-established connections with these banks and as such have struggled with really getting the aid that they need in cases like these. There's a lot of, talk in terms of the ways in which we have a lot of these laws, but we don't really think about the ways in which there are loopholes that exist in our society simply by looking at the foundations that we're based off of. And so on the next slide, if you could, yeah, so just to really clarify what we've all been talking about is we've been talking about community and kind of individualistic impacts, but we also have to keep in mind that it's really the structure that's really upholding all of these things. And so to take into consideration an important factor, I think the idea is really that we need to be cognizant of the loopholes that can be created out of society simply because of the way things are, and really taking into consideration that even though we have these laws, really considering how they can impact people differently simply based on their skin color or even where they're based and what resources they have access to can really help us in terms of helping each other out in society. And to really kind of hammer home this point, I have two different statistics. One showing that in a recent study that's been released by Duke at talking about ways to close the racial wealth gap. There's one that states that white people at the lowest rungs of education still have more access to wealth than educated people of color. And the very action of a Black person moving into a white neighborhood can devalue the properties in that area. So just to really hammer home how prevalent these issues are, despite what we may believe.
Thank you, panel two. It's very clear that these opportunities need to go directly to the communities. In fact, that actually reminds me of a recent interview transcription that I did where LISC gave a CDC more resources in order to reach more people down in Greenville, Mississippi. You know, and in places like that, a lack of resources is such a detriment. You know, they don't have access to the same kind of public transportation that a lot of us take for granted here in like New York City. And, you know, those are the places where people have been affected the most by the pandemic, like COVID. Sanai, any thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Tiger, for sharing your thoughts. Looking back at this summer, my work at LISC New York City showed a lot of the racial disparities within this country, but I also think I participated a lot in fighting against them. So as part of my work at LISC New York City, I helped combat these disparities by supporting the communications team and elevating the issues that need to be addressed in these communities. As a thought leadership group, LISC New York City and its communications team works hard in advocating to help combat racial disparities. It is important that when talking about racial inequalities, we also provide solutions. So on that note, panel 3 will be talking about the solutions they saw through their community development work. The first question I have for you guys is, what strategies did you use to combat racial inequalities, and what did you learn from those experiences?
Hi, so I'll take that question. My name is Ashley Batista, and I am a rising freshman at Tufts University. This summer, I had the pleasure of being placed at Cypress Hills Local Development Organization, and I've been primarily focused on tenant outreach. In tenant outreach, I get in contact with tenants to alleviate immediate needs that are in consequence of COVID-19. In my experience with tenant outreach, I have learned how important individualized support could be, and more importantly, how much of a privilege it is to have it. The strategy of making the tenant feel significant and makes their issues significant is already more than what some of these tenants have ever experienced. This strategy is also effective because of the way we can support relationships between tenants and management. In creating this relationship of trust and reliance allows for our work to move beyond just becoming the middleman. Besides this targeted individualism, there is also the strategy of supplemental support in extending our services beyond the immediate. Services beyond the immediate, like Diana Sanafella said, includes providing organic options and supporting healthy lifestyles. This summer, I have also had the pleasure to work on the Verde Initiative. The Verde Initiative supports people in taking healthy choices through buying healthy foods and how they can make those choices while on SNAP, or commonly known as food stamps. These strategies combat the injustices of racial inequalities as we focus our support on individuals, and provide supplemental support, which is support that is not always available in impoverished communities, as people don't receive this support without it being at a very high cost.
Hi everyone, my name is Aurora Austin and I'm a rising freshman at Middlebury College. And this summer I was assigned to work at Impact Brooklyn, a community development organization that is focusing its resources on providing affordable housing to those who need it. So this summer I worked on creating a podcast, and having a podcast is important because most people don't know that the services they use are provided by Impact Brooklyn. So this podcast is a way for them to access that information and just know like the numerous services that Impact Brooklyn offers. And a podcast can be listened to on the way to work. It can be played on Instagram and on numerous platforms at many different times. It's very easy and accessible to actually listen to without having to schedule a sit-down appointment with somebody, especially with people who are busy with the job or things like that. They might not have time to make a sit-down appointment or call somebody on the phone. So the podcast provides helpful information along with the explanation of the services. It has tips of mental wellness, financial literacy, and things of that nature, because it's very important to be educated on those important topics. Like Joseph and everyone else was saying, like, you need to know how to budget money. You need to have knowledge on financial literacy if you're going to buy a home and things of that nature. So it's very important to be educated. And going back to what Joseph was saying about tenant rights, the podcast also focuses on that information. So for example, like it talks about how a landlord cannot evict you. Only a state marshal can after the landlord has gone through the formal eviction process. So it's illegal for a landlord to change your locks or throw out your belongings. And if that does happen, then the tenant is entitled to compensation. And I didn't even know that before doing research. And so I think that's something that a lot of people need to know, especially in managing their relationship with their landlord.
Yeah, hello. Hope everyone's having a good afternoon. Just to follow my two colleagues, hi, my name is Craig Celestine. I'm a rising junior at BU. For the summer, I interned at the Center for Virtual Financial Health at Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation. At Bedford-Stuyvesant, I learned that the central mission was to facilitate and achieve the attainment of improved well-being, financial stability, and upward mobility for Central Brooklyn residents. I was inspired to learn about the various initiatives dedicated to the general upliftment of even my own community. In terms of my work's general scope, I was involved heavily in assisting the Training and Placement Division to place Brooklyn residents into jobs offering career pathways and healthy wages. My own work this summer involved a myriad of tasks and processes. As you can see currently on the slide, my most noteworthy participation has been on the Solar One Workforce Program. This particular initiative was focused on workforce development for people of color, minority, and underrepresented employees to enter the renewable energy sector. In the work exclusive to providing that opportunity to clients, I worked on designing a flyer that clearly communicated details pertaining to the initiative. Oh, next slide, sorry. Wrote a letter that communicated the ideas to clients in a succinct manner, and created a Google form that allowed applicants to RSVP for the opportunity. I believe that the Solar One program is a promising S1 partnership as it pertains to environmental equity and justice. Secondly, I worked with re-engaging clients and candidates for possible employment involving various methods of communication, emailing to calls. I learned about the time investment and deliberation that is integral to workforce development, and about the creative methods CDCs use in order to enact constructive change. Overall, this summer, I gained a bigger grasp and understanding of the processes involved in economic empowerment and community development working together. I have an appreciation for the work involving combating the forces of inequity.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of these strategies are thrown out, and I really appreciate it. But let's get it a little more personal. What have you guys learned from embarking on these strategies, and how effective do you think these strategies are? Do you think there are any improvements that can be made?
I think that's a really good question. On personal reflection, this sense of individualism and extra support creates a, sorry, siblings. Okay, sorry, let me start over. On personal reflection, the sense of individualism and extra support creates a foundation of support that is not usually received. Most of the tenants I have worked with never had that kind of support, and some tenants feel like their issues are subliminal and often feel alone. I had a tenant who needed support with her rent and thought that she was going to be evicted. But through the strategies implemented by the CHLDC, the tenant was able to receive the individualized support she needed in order to finally sign a lease she could afford. The tenant was also able to be connected to counselors in order to support her in other ways with SNAP and more programs surrounding the idea of rental relief. Therefore, the tenant was able to receive immediate support and then that extended support to ensure that she was in a stable environment. These strategies are effective in the way that it provides immediate and extensive support. Most importantly, it demonstrates the importance of these grassroots corporations as they provide personal and communal support, which creates a tightly knitted community of individuals that can also support each other and us in our work to further support communities like Cypress Hills.
Hi everyone, it's Aurora again. So what have I learned from this working this summer? I feel like I've become more educated on important topics surrounding mental wellness and financial literacy, and I feel like I've learned enough to be able to educate other people and to share this knowledge in a way that people are going to receive it easily, especially with my peers around me who don't necessarily know the information that I just learned. So for example, like from conversations with a social worker at Impact Brooklyn, I learned about the effectiveness of music therapy, which is basically where you choose a song that'll directly change your mood. So whether it's your favorite song that's gonna help you stop feeling mad or a sad song that you can cry to, it's effective in controlling your emotions and having an outlet for them. In addition to that, I recently learned that all therapists offer a free first consultation to determine whether or not you'll be a right fit with them. And aside from the research that I've done, I've taken some information from my Cashin Fellows. For example, like listening to Ashley talk about tenant outreach, I found that smaller change in communities and by just having basic phone calls and simply listening to a tenant and making them feel heard is just as important as larger systemic change. So I feel like I've learned that both are equal, like both are necessary to combating racial inequality and injustice.
Yeah, this is Craig again, responding to the second question that Tiger asked, which was really good. During my internship at Bedford Stuyvesant Restoration, my supervisor told me to read The Divide by Matt Tibby. An important quote from Chapter 2 read, "The cleaving of the country into two completely different states, one a small archipelago of hyper-acquisitive untouchables, the other a vast ghetto of expendables with only theoretical rights, has been in the works for a long time." This quote deciphers the parallel existence precipitated by economic inequity in the U.S. There's a growing wealth gap that has persisted, largely ignored, creating the haves and have-nots. There's an ongoing economic plight precipitating injustices and discrimination in our judicial systems, housing, and even education. By working on strategies with restoration, I learned how and what intersectional combating racial inequality looks like. The Solar One Workforce Program and my own work on the project gave me insight into creative and potentially effective methods of economic empowerment. Green energy is a strong tool that can be used to uplift people of color and underrepresented communities to take back their own environments. Solutions exist to provide clients with tools towards developing skills and spaces to network and achieve their own dreams for employment. By researching about tech companies devoted to diversity and inclusion, I was able to comprehend how industries move in the spirit of equity. Companies are learning about the benefits of inclusion. I hope these initiatives of equity become more prevalent. The impact of COVID gave me a glimpse into how the remote environment includes person-to-person work instrumental to communities, and at the same time exacerbates inequity. Lastly, interning for restoration allowed me to fine-tune my own research skills and learn the importance of guidance, education, and personal connection as it relates to employment and racial equity. I believe that these strategies were effective and have the potential to change establishment and status quo. Racial injustices require change, not the same ambivalence and inaction. Thank you.
Thank you, panel 3, and thank you to all the panel members today. That brings us to the end of the 2020 Cashin Summit presentation, but I want to briefly talk about the importance of community development and the Cashin program. In light of COVID-19 and the drastic impact it has had on minority communities, community development is extremely important to New York residents of color and their survival. It has also always been important that community development is actively challenging the racial inequalities that exist. The Cashin Fellowship Program is the embodiment of what community development is, and every summer, young Black and Brown kids get to experience this amazing program and become stronger advocates for their community. And I'm so grateful that I was able to be part of this.
Thanks, Anai. Listening to the work that my fellow interns did this summer, it really demonstrates how important community development is and how essential organizations like LISC and CDCs like Cypress Hills and Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation are during these times. The pandemic truly has had disproportionate effects on different communities, making our work ever more important. A lot of us actually did not know what community development was before this fellowship, but now, thanks to this opportunity, all of us interns were able to get the chance to really understand, what you guys do on a daily basis, especially during such a pressing time of COVID-19. And finally, we would like to thank Leah and Emily for guiding us this entire time, especially through all the technical difficulties. We really appreciate the personal, virtual touch that you gave to making us feel comfortable during this program. We would like to thank Valerie White for giving us this opportunity, and of course, we would like to thank Lisa Cashin for sponsoring us and making this program possible. Lastly, we would like to thank everybody for coming out to your computers today and listening to the work that we've done this summer. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Blank, Senior Community Development Officer at LISC New York City. Really want to thank the Cashin Fellows for sharing their wisdom and insights, and for all summer jumping into something new and challenging during extraordinarily difficult times with many pressures on them. And I think we've heard sort of collectively, across all their different experiences, the impact they've been able to have in increasing people's access to housing, to employment, to healthy food, and to closing the racial wealth gap during this extraordinary time. So for now, we've got some time for questions and answers. So if you have a question, please write it in the chat, and I can put it to the fellows to answer. I see a lot of praise coming from Maria from New Settlement Apartments, so that's nice. Others want to write anything in?
For anyone asking questions, you can send them directly to Emily. Or me, and I'll share this.
Okay, here we go. Just reading through it. Okay, so we have a question about what it's been like to work remotely and to do this work, virtually. So it says the summer has forced many organizations to go remote and carry out their work virtually. Many have never worked like this before. How do you think not being able to be in person and meet face to face has impacted community organizations and the work that they do? Does anyone want to take that question?
I think I can start a little bit just speaking about my experience at LISC New York City, having worked with Emily and Leah this entire summer, which has been really great. I think with my online experience with school as well as the Cashin Fellowship Program, I've learned that community needs to be more than in-person contact. And I think although the online world is very challenging to navigate, I think the experience that I've learned and that I've heard from many others is that community building has become more stronger and more genuine. And I feel although in-person connections are extremely important to building a relationship with one another, I think we really learn the value of connecting to one another, like talking to one another, asking each other questions, and we're really attentive to each other and our circumstances through this online world, and especially with the conditions of the pandemic and the conditions that this country is going through. So I would really say that this online world has highlighted the importance of community to me. It actually hasn't done the opposite, which I'm really grateful for. So yeah.
Yeah, I also, going along with what Tanai was saying, I completely agree with that because being online, you really have to, it's either like you're really present or you're absent. Like there's really like no in between with online work. And I feel like I've seen this in classroom settings earlier in the spring where people sometimes wouldn't like show up at all or something like that. Like it's very easy to just disappear from online work, but when you really put the effort in and you turn on your camera and you like actually have conversations, I feel like in a sense online work can be a lot more personal because it's a bit awkward. So you have to like really like help each other like go through that little phase of awkwardness and then you get more comfortable. I feel like, yeah, I completely agree with what Sanai is saying.
Great. Another question we have is, how did you all deal with feeling discouraged at times with the state of affairs, not just because of COVID-19, but the world? What keeps you going through these difficult times?
I can answer the question. Can you just repeat it one more time? I just wanted to really give a good answer for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how you all dealt with feeling discouraged at times with the state of affairs, not just because of COVID-19, but the world. What keeps you going?
I think what keeps me going, and I mean, this is also part of my major, is that the work I was doing was really tied to environmental work. That's really what I want to go into is environmental work, environmental engineering, and I think we have a lot of problems concerning the environment that's also have something to do with race and have to do with discrimination and practices of overexploitation. So the hope is that by me doing more work and investing in my classes, and even doing stuff like this about workforce development and understanding how to talk to people, how to network, and just gaining those soft and hard skills that I can really become a big part of like an environmental revolution. Really be a big part of the smart future that's ahead of us. It's important for us to shift the status quo, and I think that's important in all of the work, especially with listeners, shifting the status quo and really preventing stagnation and people just being neglected. And for me, that's my prime course for me in terms of what I want to do in the future is shifting the status quo and really caring about the people that society likes to neglect or overlook. And that's like what keeps me going is the hope of equity and equality and justice, whatever role presents itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to respond to that one? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just to piggyback on what Craig said, I think I feel like for prep kids, it's also very personal to motivate each other and help other people, because at some point in our lives, those were people for us. Like for us, there were people who saw the way the world was and decided to make a change, decided to shift it, and decided to give these, POC kids an opportunity to expand themselves and to expand themselves through these amazing opportunities like this. So I feel like when we're working with other people and supporting them in the best ways that we can, for me personally, I just think about I don't want to give up on other people because there hasn't been a lot of people in my life who gave up on me.
That's really wonderful to hear. Another question is, would you say you're more optimistic about solving racial inequities than you were, say, 3 months ago?
And maybe you could do a hands up, thumbs down. I've got all of you on my gallery. I'm just curious how many are more optimistic or hopeful. So thumbs up, thumbs down. 3, 4.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Sideways.
I can talk about it a little bit too, also.
Good. Thank you.
So I guess like prior to this internship, like I kind of thought like the only way to really make real change was kind of through like widespread like governmental policy changes, which is an effective way for sure. But you know that kind of gets like tied up in Democrat versus Republican, like a lot of like just sort of at like contrasting opinions and stuff like that. But I feel like LISC kind of knows what it wants to do. It has a focus and it I feel like it shows a different way that's outside of like politics. It has that sort of ring to it for sure, but I feel like it's directly affecting people as opposed to just like arguing about like, oh, Second Amendment, blah blah blah, like that kind of stuff, So I feel like I like that LISC is making direct change as opposed to just like arguing about like the same issues over and over and not really getting anywhere, So yeah.
Right. We've got a lot of other questions, so I'm going to start throwing them out. Has your perception of community development changed as a result of this experience? If so, how and in what way?
I would say at first, when I thought of development, I would only really think of like
Aurora, you're breaking up. Do you want to try without the video?
part-time stuff. But I learned that like it's not just like volunteering; it's a whole career. It's something needed to be pursued.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to respond to that one?
I mean, I guess like when I started, I didn't really know all that much about community development, but I didn't expect it to like require so much interaction with other people, or at least with the community. I thought it was more like a bureaucratic thing.
Okay. Do you think this experience has changed your career trajectory, and if so, how? Maybe some of the college students want to take that one.
Well, I definitely didn't consider community development as a career before, because I was planning on majoring in chemistry, but after the panel with everyone who had like different paths in life and eventually converged to community development, there's certainly a potential there.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have thoughts about how it's impacted your thinking about careers?
Hello.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'll respond to that question. In 2017, summer of 2017. Was it 2018? It was summer of 2018. I interned at Impact Brooklyn, so I was at LISC again. I went through this whole entire process, doing a presentation and really conducting community work and being in person out in the community and being in Section 8 housing and having to stand outside and ask people's opinions and survey. I think like even though I ultimately don't think I'm gonna have a career in workforce development because I'm more of like a math orientated like not sit down but kind of analyze and do like field work and build things. That's really what I'm about. But I think it really did plant the seeds of doing work that really is not as capitalistic as other internships. And then, the next summer when I worked at JP Morgan in summer 2019, I really thought about how systems in banks kind of work to create inequity that kind of like really made me stay away from like financials and stuff like that. So I think like being at Impact Brooklyn and possibly this internship as well has kind of highlighted more of the inequalities that I was unaware of initially, and it's starting to peel back the layers of sort of like the indoctrination that I had when I was younger, which is important. I think there's a lot of
Oh, Craig, you're freezing up. Do you want to try without your video? Okay. Kind of had me on the edge of my seat. Oh, Craig, can you try again? All right. Does anyone else want to respond to the career question?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, Craig is back. Yay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
Finish up.
yeah, sorry, technical difficulties. I apologize. But whatever I was gonna say, I think in short, yeah, I think it really helped me to just see what I want to work on for the future in terms of equity and stuff with environment and smart energy specifically is really going to be a path towards equity in the future. So, in summary, that it really has contributed a lot to what I'm doing now, what I want to do in the future.
Great. There's a couple questions that are a little bit similar, so I'm going to try to combine them. How will your experience this summer inform how you get involved with your communities, either at school or in your neighborhood, or even choosing electives when you get back to school? But maybe let's actually just focus just on how has it impacted how you might get involved or interact with your school communities.
I take this question.
Great.
So it's a double-faceted answer, and I think that for me personally, I've always really been interested in volunteering and kind of getting involved in the community in that way. So this has been really helpful for me in terms of kind of taking on roles that don't exactly just look like volunteering and getting involved with the community in that way. And so going forward, I really want to continue doing that and kind of emphasizing the ways in which I can be of help as a volunteer for all of these community development organizations, especially in Philadelphia, where University of Pennsylvania is. And I also think that going forward, it really will help me inform the way that I interact with my peers at Penn, because I do believe that my college is very much so a bubble. Even though we're based in Philadelphia, there's very much, we kind of stick with ourselves. And because of the way that people don't really consider the privilege they have, or like the privilege we have in wealth or the opportunities that we have experienced, the opportunities that we've had access to and being able to go to Penn, the narrative that really kind of gets pushed by each other in terms of community development and even looking at things like volunteering it's very much so one-sided and kind of, like Craig mentioned, it's kind of indoctrinated. And so I think that I really want to take the experiences that I've worked with this summer and kind of push back on that idea that we really have on campus, and kind of just, especially within the school I'm in at Penn, kind of push back on the idea that we should really be focusing on, making sure that people are people and you shouldn't treat them a different way just because they don't have the same opportunities as you.
Yeah, also kind of what Megan was saying, I think on a lot of our college campuses, we see like our schools being in this bubble, and it's kind of hard to get to become a part of like the surrounding community. And I think this summer has really helped, especially like the virtual part, because like for a lot of schools, I know that it's either like only certain class years are coming back and then certain are doing it virtually. So then it's like, how do you still become an active member of like the college community and like the surrounding community while still being like at home if you have to be. So like for me in my school, we've been setting up a lot of committees trying to do like how can we get a smaller share of presence on our campus, which I think it directly relates back to like the issue of police brutality that all of America is seeing. So we're trying to figure out how to do that virtually by attending like the virtual city council meetings and virtually like assembling with all like different like affinity groups and things like that to continue the conversation, so that when people do get back on campus, they're able to do more of the physical work that you're not able to do if you're not, there physically.
Yeah, it's really good to learn that we can continue to stay involved even when we are far apart from each other. Anyone else want to reflect on that question about how this will impact your experience back in your school community? Okay, I'll move on to the next one. This is another probably like raise your hand. Are any of you able to go back to your college campuses this fall? Okay, one hand raised. Two. I think that's all I see. Oh, three. Yeah, so a handful of people, but most it seems like will continue to be remote. And then from Maria Saicedo at New Settlement Apartments, this is not a question but a comment. I just want to praise Aurora for saying that working towards systemic change is important, but the light, personal, and direct touch is where it can start to build up. Very true. And another comment from Brian at Brian Sadek, Banana Kelly. Just want to let LISC know how grateful we are here at Banana Kelly for the work Joseph performed this summer. Thank you, LISC, Cashin Fellowship, and Joseph. And another question, super insightful and reflective panel, job well done. Question, with Prep for Prep and the Cashin Fellows program, it seems you have had a tremendous experience. What advice would you give to your peers who may not have had access to programs like this?
I think I can start with this question because I've had to battle with this question a lot with my own family members and a lot of people that are close to me. And I think what I've noticed is that the opportunities that we all have been given is definitely very rare. Sadly, but it is true. And there aren't a lot of people that are able to open the doors that we have been able to walk through. Going to independent high schools, going to these colleges, and being in these programs are very important. But the one thing that I learned throughout this whole experience is that if you walk through a door, you have to keep it open and you have to try your hardest to provide those opportunities and give back. So personally, I think the Cashin Fellowship Program was my way of kind of giving back to my community as best as I can during a time like this. But I think the best way that one can give back is to be a resource to the people and to tell them about the resources that you've had access to. I know that my family first heard about Prep 9 through me, and a lot of my distant family members don't know about the program. So that's one example of outreach that I think is really important. But other than that, I really think the advice I would give to people that are navigating this world that are like us and we're not given these same opportunities, I think what you should do is never stop believing in yourself, and that these opportunities don't make or break your career path, and it doesn't define where you will end up in the future. And you don't need these opportunities to make a difference, and you don't need these opportunities to become successful. I think what you do need is confidence and the ability to believe in yourself, and you can always pursue through other avenues of change as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. If I could also piggyback off of what Sinai said, I think that's a full answer. Very clearly, we are all very lucky, extremely lucky to be in this situation. Prep 9 has opened so many doors for me personally, and I'd be nowhere near the person that I am now because of it. But I think to those that are currently on let's say a streak of bad luck, your life is pretty long. You got a lot of time, you have a lot to work for, and right now it might look like it's not working out, but it's always just about constantly preparing. Everybody will get their chance, and it's just up to you whether or not you have the ability to take that chance. For me, it was obviously Prep 9, and that opened up the doors, but it's not Prep 9, it can be something else. But as long as you're prepared and you're all working hard for that, everybody will get their chance, and if you strike it, you take it and run with it.
Also, kind of want to piggyback on that. I feel like it's like Tiger and Sinai said, it's very important for all of us to learn from this experience. I think it's also important to know and understand the privilege we have in going to Prep for Prep and going to these prestigious institutions. And I feel like in addressing to people who don't necessarily have these opportunities, we all have some sort of privilege in being where we are. And I feel like if in any way we can use that privilege to give back to our communities is the most important part. Like personally for me and working in Cypress Hills, ironically enough, I grew up in Cypress Hills. So it was very important for me personally to grow up, go to boarding school, and then come back and especially support the community that has supported me so much and try to make some people's lives better, even if that is in a very, very small way.
Thank you. Any other responses to that question?
So, yeah, hi. I just wanted to add on that, yeah, I agree with what everyone said. And I think that one thing that I took away from, like, the experience that I had with this summer is that everyone has different things to offer and different strengths. Like, in keeping, like, a society running, like, there's people, like, who make, like, policy changes, like someone mentioned, I forgot who mentioned it, but with the organizations, they're, like, working directly with people. So there's, like if you don't have, like these people mentioned that someone may not have the opportunities like time, like everyone can offer something, and in the sense that like if you're not, maybe we don't have the power to make like policy change or like change laws, like the work that we did with LISC is very personal, so we can like Aurora stated, like it's mental health, like helping people on a personal level is just as important. So everyone, we can all like help where we're at, and everyone can make a difference where they're at based on like your own strengths or the own level that we're at. Like we can help with these organizations, and it still makes a difference, and it's still as important in helping people and like keeping and making change.
Great. Great, thank you. We've got one more comment here that I'll read out, and then I think that is it for questions from Lisa. It's terrific that so many of you are jumping in to answer these questions. Sounds like you have each had some very interesting and productive experiences. Thank you. And with that, I think that's it for questions. So I'm going to hand it to Valerie White, who's the director of the LISC New York City office, to offer some words to you.
Hello, fellows. How's everyone? All right. Glad to see you all, and just wanted to congratulate you all on this presentation. It's very interesting to hear your experiences and the different projects that you worked on, and we know that you worked hard really all summer. This was a different experience for you all, right? So you're working during a historic time. And what a time to join the community development world, right? This will go down in history as the most exciting summer internship in the community development field. And I hope that you all, of course, took away something in the work that you did, but understand clearly how meaningful it is to be here at this time and how your contributions have been very important to the communities that we serve. So we thank you for that and the support that you have provided to our partners and to us at LISC. We also believe that all of you have really brought a new perspective, a fresh perspective to this field of community development, and these times, again, are very important. So please keep all of these experiences in mind as you either go off to school or stay home and remote to school, whichever one of the opportunities that you have. But we also hope that this has been instrumental in your professional development. So as you go on in your professional life, you remember this experience as something that has contributed to your growth as a professional and an individual. So we are virtual. And I really miss the opportunity of seeing you all in person, having the opportunity to meet you and talk to you, but we can still give each other and all of you a virtual round of applause. So I'm going to clap. And I'm looking for some more hands, but, very, very, very pleased that we had you all this summer. So I just want to go over another round of thank yous to everybody who's made this program possible. You have your staff at Prep for Prep. They're very dedicated, and we are grateful for their partnership. The community-based organizations have just been wonderful to host you fellows year after year. They do incredible work in our communities, but having a fellow is something that's important to them and important to us because it allows us to expose the next generation of community development professionals to what we do. And again, you really lucked up in having this particular time to do that. The LISC staff who have been working with you all as mentors and that have participated in the program events, I want to thank them for that. And of course, we must thank Lisa Cashin. We are so grateful for her generosity in making this program possible year after year after year, and her support has just been outstanding. So we are so glad you attended, so glad to have you this summer. Please be sure to take away this valuable experience. But one thing about an internship experience, and I've had this conversation with two of your fellow interns that worked in the New York City office, you have to take the opportunity to network. Part of an internship experience is learning how to establish a network. This is the first stop in doing so. So I'll invite you to contact me at any time, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can do the same with Leah and Emily if you haven't done so already. And we'll be here to support you throughout your educational and professional career. But building a network is one of the most important things that you can do as a professional to, as you grow and your career takes its trajectory in the places that you want to go. So please take that, take advantage of that. And we look forward to hearing about everything that you're doing, all the wonderful things that you'll be doing in your career. So with that, I will say goodbye, turn it back to Emily.
I just want to, sorry, can I just say my thanks to New York City LISC?
Yes.
New York City LISC really has this structured program. There's a beginning, a middle, an end. The mentorships and partnerships are key. So you guys have developed just an excellent program over 13 years. And I want to, thank everyone again, all the thanks that Valerie enumerated, and Rebecca Irvey at Prep, if you're still on. So it's spreading. There are a couple of people from American Ballet Theater who are now looking to maybe do something next summer with Prep students. So it's going to go viral. And, I'm delighted with what you're doing. And I also want to say that I go to the Lilac Ball every year, and you guys should go too and support Prep for Prep and support your schools and come over and say hello to me because, there have been a lot of you, and I'm 67 and I'm old and I just don't remember everyone. So please stick your neck out. It's all part of the networking, and I hope to see you.
Great. And just a last thank you is sort of traditionally at this moment, we would present Lisa with a thank you gift. We cannot do that in person. And we've traditionally done a photo of all the fellows and you at the neighborhood tour. So this year, in keeping with the remote theme, we are putting together a photo that includes pictures of all of this year's fellows so that you will always remember the remote Cashin Fellowship. And that will be arriving in the mail. Thank you again, and congratulations again to the Cashin Fellows, and thank you to everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cashin.
Congratulations all.
Okay. Bye all. Thank you. Take care.